Alright, let me watch this.
Hey guys, Scott here. It's 4 in the morning. I just had this thought in bed and I got out of bed to record this, so forgive me if I'm jumbling words and stuff like that. It's very late.
No, you good.
But I think I have proof that you can't actually balance Dead by Daylight for the top 1%. It's a common sentiment in a lot of games to balance around the top 1%, and I would dare say for most games it's actually true. That is the best, most effective way to actually do it. Because in those scenarios, even if you balance for the top 1%, it's really not going to ruin the game for everybody else due to how, symmetrical games work. However, DBD is asymmetrical, which means that any change that you make for one side is going to be drastically felt in a completely different and multitude of ways by another side.
Okay.
So the asymmetrical nature of DBD already invalidates those comparisons to the whole balancing around the top 1% thing. It just doesn't really apply, at least to this game in particular. Maybe there are other games, but in this game in particular, it doesn't apply. And
Maybe.
a lot of that reason is like, if you try to make a blanket balancing change, you see the inherent flaw here. And that's because the actual power balance between killers, the disparity between the weakest and the strongest killer is so great that if you ever make a blanket change, like, just making gens take longer,
Right.
it completely ruins the game. For example, like, if you make a...
That's funny because in my last video, when True was facing Oracle, I made a suggestion of gen progression reduction. So basically meaning that Hex Ruin should be, like, built in. And True said something about that too, like, because I know it was in some tournaments that you can't disable the Hex Totem if it's Hex Ruin. You can't disable it just to balance the game out more. But I think I see where he's coming from here with the balancing between killers and killer powers.
A change where gens take longer, or you nerf survive with friends or whatever, you do something like that. Now, Clown at the highest level actually might have some type of chance. However, Nurse has the same chance, but now...
let me tell you something about Clown real quick, bro. Clown's yellow smoke, to me, at least, does nothing, dude. At all. Like, they could at least increase the speed, because that's supposed to give you a speed boost. They could at least increase the speed. I also hate the fact that it increases the survivor speed, too. It should only work with him, not with survivors. It shouldn't favor survivors also. Like, how a killer's power favors a survivor. I don't understand that. But, it's whatever.
How it's just even easier for her. And as long as you have a game with, killer powers that are so drastically different in terms of actual power,
right,
these kind of blanket changes, they can't really work because you'll always be fucking over some side. If you, nerf, a mechanic for a killer, then, like, no matter what you do, some side is always going to be affected in a really bad way. And I think the Clown example is probably what I want to stick with because, yeah, if you buff the actual overall killer experience by making gens take longer, then Nurse becomes too strong, and then Clown is too, easily balanced. So,
and I should have thought of that last video. I don't know, like, I was just so one-minded. I was frustrated too at the Oracle game, but he is, like, literally 100% right. Like, you can't even argue with that, honestly, because, like he said, a killer as weak as Clown, if you try to balance out the game to the point where it favors killers like the Clown, who is very weak, it will then make killers who are already stronger than Clown much stronger. So it's like, what is there to balance? You can't balance nothing because it will make Nurse or killers like Nurse, well, it's not no killers like Nurse, it will make Nurse or Spirit stronger. That's the idea that he's getting at.
So blanket changes like that can't work as long as there's that much of a skill or power disparity. Not skill, an actual design disparity in terms of the actual killer's power.
Exactly.
So that can't work. So the only way
it's sad, but it's true. It's sad.
Individually balance the killers to be up to that level where they all have the same potential as Nurse. They all have the potential to beat any team, no matter what, no matter how good they are, as long as the killer plays exceptionally well. And even assuming behavior
My fault.
wanted to
It
balance
was dumb
killers
noisy
like that,
outside,
which
bro.
they very clearly don't. So already we're going into hypothetical territory here. Even saying that they did want to balance the game like that, and that was their goal, to balance for the top 1%, they want to make it so they bring all the killers up to Nurse's level.
Mm-hmm.
It's still, and this is kind of where I think the proof thing comes in, if we go by the current rate that behavior updates old killers and releases new killers, the universe will end before all of the killers are brought up to that level, because at the same rate that they update old killers, they bring in a new killer who's not as good as Nurse. So no matter what, it's just as soon as they bring one in.
And another thing too, is like the killers sometimes is like they either repeat the same type of, like they repeat the same type of power, or it's like it feels similar to like a killer that already existed in the game. Like for example, Pyramid Head and Nemesis feel really similar to one another. Like playing as Nemesis kind of feels like Pyramid Head, just slightly different. Like yeah, Nemesis got more map pressure because of the zombies and stuff, but then it's like Pyramid Head could send you to cages. But they both have that type of precision to the point where you gotta aim right to get the hit off, if that makes sense.
Replace it, then bring one in, then replace it. But unless every killer right now is currently at that level, it'll never happen, because it's just a 1-to-1. It replaces it. And this is even assuming the changes they make when they update these killers are good. Or we could have a clown situation where the buff is basically nothing and he's still shit. So
Exactly.
at the
That
current
yellow
rate
smoke does
that
nothing,
behavior
bro.
updates
I'm gonna
killers
be
and
100%
releases
honest
new
with you.
killers, it is impossible for every killer to get to that level.
It's sad,
So you can't
it's
do a
true.
blanket thing,
Yeah.
because that'll, exacerbate the disparity in power between the killers. But you can't individually balance all the killers as well, because at the same rate that they balance them, a new weaker killer comes out, or not even weaker killer, a new killer that's just simply not, the absolute top tier comes out.
I'm about to say, like,
So you have a never
like it's nothing. Well, Nemesis he's not weak. He's okay, but he could be better. That's like, I don't play him as much only because I know he could be better. I'm hopefully waiting for them to change him, cause bro, like that. I hate the fact that it seems like they have 3 health states. Like you have to keep snowballing. I mean, don't get me wrong. You got to snowball with Oni, and Oni's pretty alright, but I don't know. I just hate the 3 health states thing. It's not sitting right with me.
cycle of it just never actually being able to work. So that's sort of the main thought I had.
And they get a speed boost when you hit them the first time with the tentacle. Meant to tell them that too.
Like, there's like that whole sentiment that like a bad player will become good, so you should balance around players getting to that level. And to some extent I do agree with that. The thing is though, what the statement usually is good players will eventually become top tier players. But the thing is, I think in Dead by Daylight, people don't care to get to that point.
They really don't.
It's been 5 years.
Honestly,
It's still the absolute tiny 0.01% that actually takes this game like at a competitive level.
Honestly, yeah.
So it's been 5 years and the game is still not like that. People have not cared to get to that point. Because really,
Oracle exists.
when you think about it, when people get to that skill level, they sort of have like, that they have to have, an epiphany. Where once you get to that level, you realize if you're playing Survivor, for example, this game's actually not that deep. There's really not that much. It's not like a fighting game where you could spend thousands and thousands and thousands of hours
for Honor, bro. Oh my!
Time. You can learn Survivor pretty
mind you,
fucking easily.
That game is still toxic to this day. But let me remain on topic, bro. That game, oh my gosh.
It's pretty simple to play the game. So the fact that the skill cap is so low, at least for that side of it, I'm not saying killer's that much harder either, but the fact that the skill cap is so low, for example, for half of the role of this game, it makes people just like there's no incentive to get really good at it. And the very small people or amount of people that do have that incentive, they tend to join competitive teams, and you don't see them anyway because they're doing scrims and kill your friends and stuff. So that's not relevant to the normal matchmaking either. I don't really buy that whole argument too that bad players will eventually become top players, because people don't care enough to do it in this game. The game isn't deep enough to warrant that time, and the people that do get to that level either are streamers that are doing it because it's their job, or they get to that level and then they start fucking around because that's the only way to keep it fun,
Or-
or they split off into competitive and you never see them because they're in Kill Your Friends doing scrims. So
That's why fun boats exist.
in all of those scenarios, it doesn't matter. So
I love
yeah,
using fun
Those
builds.
are just my thoughts. I'm probably gonna go back to sleep.
Like using Hex Ruin and Pop Goes the Weasel is so boring. Like, yeah, you want to slow down the game, but you just wish that was in base game. But like he said, make that base game is gonna make the killers already stronger. So it's kind of is unbalanceable, bro.
Sleep now. Okay, bye.
But man, it's just it's so true. Like you can't balance this game, bro. You could try your hardest, you can't balance it, only because the simple fact that if you try to balance something out, something that's already not balanced is gonna wind up being much stronger. Which I'm trying to say that Nurse is gonna be stronger if gen regression is a thing. Like, you see what I'm saying? But it's the truth. See you guys, peace.
To the beat, to the beat, y'all.
Check it out.
Come on. 1, 2.
1, 2, y'all.
What you gonna do?